Does anyone really want to die in a bathtub at 27 or blow their brains out with a shotgun after a successful career? The mortality rate amongst singers and musicians, but particularly singers, is quite high when you get to the higher levels. I'm Chris Ollie and I am a musician.
With his band 6x7, Chris Ollie has starred in music videos, played on Jools Holland, and fronted stages at Glastonbury Festival. Now he produces music for other bands. Chris has experienced firsthand the pressures of performing and the effects that it can have on an artist's mental health. But before we take a closer look at mental health in music, we must first look at what it means to be a musician. Rock City in Nottingham is an iconic music venue. For any aspiring artist, playing at a venue like this one is the first step on the way to becoming a successful musician. But where that might seem like a dream come true, there's one alarming downside to having a career in music. 73% of musicians have suffered from mental health problems. That's almost 3 times the national average. So let's take a look behind the scenes and into the lives of musicians when they're not on stage.
Rockfield Studios, I think it started in the 60s. It's run by a guy called Kingsley, and it was the first ever residential studio.
Chris Ollie is taking I Am Lono to record their first album. But with it costing thousands to rent the studio for just a few days, the band are under pressure to perform. But at least they have Chris's expert advice.
You're gonna have some wine, and you're gonna have some fags. You don't smoke, do you? No. But you do now. Right?
Chris hasn't been giving them any rest, and he's certainly not been going easy on them.
Shut up!
Felt nice to play with Tim on that.
My bass is warming up now. Fuck off! When you become a singer in a band and the song and the lyricist, I think you're driven by maybe a darker force. You know, probably more so than the others. I don't know. And I think maybe people think that performing in front of thousands of people will help them, and when they find out it doesn't, it's kind of a double whammy, isn't it? I didn't realise that there had been a certain amount of trauma in my life, and I did go and see a therapist for a while, for 6 months or so. I didn't want to, but you know, someone talked me into doing it, and I thought, well, it's not going to harm. So, you know, I found out some stuff about my life that I thought was normal, and I was told that actually I'd led a less than normal life, and in many ways it had been quite extraordinary. You know, I always throw up before gigs, and it's just not like it's not something pleasant to put yourself through, and I feel awkward on stage. And the way that I overcome that is by, as soon as my foot hits the stage, I turn into a character and I become someone else. And then that protects me, really, because then I can be this other person who does this thing. Because if I was myself up there, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it.
But it's not just musicians in the industry that suffer. 67% of promoters have anxiety, while over 70% of people with careers elsewhere in music also suffer.
It's very easy to lose touch with reality, perhaps. Depends on the person as well. But again, I've seen it not just musicians, journalists, and some of the photographers even. You're not in an office. You're not on a 9 to 5. It is very easy to you might drop into the pub very early in the morning because you can.
The music industry is about passion and creativity, and you need accountants. We've got accounts departments over there. You do need people who do 9 to 5 jobs, but it's not really about that. It's the people who are really, whether it's musicians or whether it's promoters or creative people, whatever, are the people who are a bit outside the norm, and they tend to be the people who are more on the edge.
It is an intense industry to work in, and promoters especially, not only are they doing all the hours in the office, working full-time hours in the office, but they're then going to shows upwards of 3, 4, 5 nights a week, and when you add all those hours up, it gets crazy and it does get exhausting, and I think it's easy to burn out.
Recently, there's been more of a spotlight on mental health in the music industry. Here at Beaverworks in Leeds, a collective of musicians are putting on a show to help raise awareness surrounding mental health. And they've been hosting nights out in Leeds since they formed last year. Co-organiser Johnny Brand explains how the Leeds-based DJs have been helping to fight the stigma around mental health.
We started Healthy Minds as a way to try and stimulate conversation and encourage others around the topics of mental health through a shared passion of music. We launched our first event back in October, and we went to District and we raised £253 for Mind, or around about that much, not sure on the exact figure. The thing that moved me most was one of my friends was able to comfortably talk about an eating disorder she suffered with to 3 other people, and I've never really heard of that happening on a night out, that people are not only having an amazing time at this great event but also sharing their sort of vulnerability and therefore becoming stronger as they realise that actually sharing is strength and it's okay to talk.
Johnny says that we feel safe mentally when on nights out with our friends, and that we should use these environments to confidently speak about any mental health struggles that we're having. But Johnny also stresses that Healthy Minds recognises the mental health problems that musicians themselves can face.
You think of musicians on tour, they're playing gigs every night, they're sleeping on a tour bus, they're not getting that level of sleep, they're eating food on the road, it's not going to be home cooked meal, it's not going to be nutritious, it's probably going to be grab and go. Obviously drinking every night or on drugs or whatever, it's a hard lifestyle and it does take its toll. I think there can be a lot more to be done for musicians, but it is also just a lifestyle, and it's one that can actually eat people alive. I've suffered myself from it, regularly have battles, and it becomes a case of you have to understand and recognise what it is for what it is and take precautions against it.
So, with organisations such as Healthy Minds, it looks like more is being done to acknowledge mental health via the medium of music. But can musicians use their own platform to turn the tide against their own struggles? With the recent outbreak of coronavirus, it's been difficult to get back in touch with I Am Lono and their producer Chris Ollie. But Chris did agree to a video call, so that he could tell me if things had changed in his music career and with his mental health.
And over the last 4 weeks, I've spent most of my time deleting everything that I do. But it's not a bad thing to do that. Sometimes, it's a struggle to kind of work out whether it's the work that's not good enough, or it's my state of mind that thinks the songs aren't rocking or not. It's not. Or I think with me at the moment, it's more to do with the style of music that I'm making, and I'm trying to sort of work out what I want to do.
In an age where mental health is becoming less stigmatised, members of the music industry show that there's still more to be done for the mental health of promoters, photographers, musicians, and for producers like Chris. Ellis Madison, News at Leeds.